July 10th, 8:15 in the morning, Board Finance and Operations Committee. Is there any public comment? Okay. I'm assuming you took roll. Everybody is here, so that's a good thing. Draft committee meetings, procedural items for draft committee meeting minutes from May 29th. Could I have a motion to approve as presented, or are there any changes?
I have a motion to approve the minutes as posted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're on to bids, services or purchases, capital projects.
Saban is first.
Saban, take it away.
Yep, so this one, we enlisted the services of Miller Davis as construction management firm, so the bids went out in specific categories, so I'll let Paul go over that. Just a note, depending on when you looked at the packet, we had a $30,000 error. This, in the packet, the new number is, that we're asking for approval is $3,142,168, in case you looked at it before that.
Okay.
$2,000 error.
Sorry. Okay,
So
yeah.
that, they corrected that.
Yeah,
on
we
it.
corrected it, but didn't send it out again, I just made a
Yeah,
note that
thank
that's
you.
the corrected number, so. When we read it, I'll just make sure it's the correct number. Anyway, I'll let Paul go over the detail and the trades that were bid out, and
Sure.
as a reminder, this is to get business office and HR over to Saban with printing and technology.
So as you can see, there's, what do we have bid category wise? 11 bid categories. From structural, from demolition through site work. All the bids were tabulated on this table on the sheet, were recommended by Miller Davis and ourselves. We're recommending acceptance of alternate number 2, which is upgrades to the parking lot. And like Christine said, the total amount we're looking at with contingency is $3,142,168. That does contain a 15% contingency, just because of the age and the unknown factors at Saban in that part of the building. All of the bid tabs, information, bid recommendations are behind the memorandum.
We got, we had really good response in the bid categories, at least 3 to 5 bidders in several categories, and it looks like we've got a couple of new contractors working for us that we haven't worked before.
You know, we do, and we did do our due diligence with those. I haven't worked with them. Miller Davis had, so we did some research. They've used them on several other projects, like the
Electrician.
sticks out as double O for the windows and glazing. So
And I think the electrician's new too.
the electrician Martell's been around. They just haven't worked for us.
Okay.
Are they based up here?
They do have a presence here.
Okay, but that's not their headquarters.
They used to be Alpine Electric, but they bought Alpine Electric.
Oh, all right.
As it relates to the alternate that we're asking for, we need to desperately redo all the sidewalks there. And the parking, in order to improve ADA access, we're actually pushing some parking closer to the building. There's a big grass area with a sidewalk that is pretty far distance for somebody that needs ADA accessibility to walk. So we're actually pushing that a little bit closer and making one easement in and out instead of the 2 that exist currently on that side of the building.
I would imagine there's some remediation to be done there.
There is.
And I'm assuming the reason not the reason we're remediating, but it wasn't friable while people are occupying the building, so, okay.
We've
floor
done
tile.
quite a bit over the years, especially with asbestos floor tile. Right now, it's actually just concrete. We've removed a lot of it. So we've done a lot of it, but there might be some interior.
There's about 900 square feet of floor tile that's left to come out, and there's less than 100 lineal feet of some pipe wrap insulation.
Oh,
I just had Otwell Mavi do an investigation out there and a report for me.
okay.
So this work would begin as soon as possible and be done hopefully by May, when we need to start moving Central Grade in here.
Okay.
It'll be tight, but I think we can get it done. There's no major exterior renovations. It's mostly interior other than a new roof.
And again, the intent is not to move everybody from here to Saban, but
Not yet.
Okay,
Not yet, meaning,
We, right now, the plan is to temporarily move curriculum instruction superintendent and communications to Central High School.
and after central grade's done, what's the plan?
Saban.
Everybody at Saban.
That's the end goal, is to have us all together. That's obviously a lot to talk about in several years, so
But that's the plan
potentially a new bond,
as
yes.
of today.
Mhm.
yeah. But that would require new funding for that, that's not built into this bond, or these bonds.
Correct.
Okay.
There may be some funding in this bond, but, you know, we would kinda wanna wait and see how some other bids come forward.
All right, any other questions from, are we safe to move it on to,
I would do
Board?
discussion because of the dollar amount.
right,
Yes.
that's what I was gonna suggest.
Do you want a motion on these?
Yeah, I'd just like to have something
Okay, okay.
formal.
So I move that the finance committee approve, or I guess move the bid for Saban renovations in the amount of $3,142,168 with a 15% contingency to the full board for discussion.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We're on to bridge restoration, is that what I'm seeing?
Yes, I'll turn it over to Paul. Basically, this one, we've had some settling in the bridge that goes over the creek at Traverse City High School, so he's been working quite extensively with civil engineers, structural engineers to see what the remedy is, and so he went out to bid recently and he can explain what work will be done.
Yeah, we saw some signs of settlement maybe a year and a half ago, not quite 2 years ago. And so we've been monitoring it, and then we got the services of a structural engineer and a civil engineer to come in, do some investigative work for us. And it was determined that the creek bed had lowered, the water level has lowered, it exposed more of the foundation around that bridge area. And so we started working on a solution for this while we continued monitoring it. So the solution we came up with is to stabilize it as is, using some helical piers. They'll drill down in, find support down about, they're thinking about 30 feet deep, and we'll span a beam across, tie that into the existing system, and then come back in and rebuild the protection around the foundations on the riverside there.
Probably on both sides of the bridge, or both sides of the river, creek.
Yep.
Okay.
So we bid this, we got 2 bids, Grand Traverse and Walton. There's a little bit of a discrepancy between the bids, but we're pretty confident with Walton Contracting. They've done this kind of work before. They did the work out at the pier out here. They do this all the time. And they were instrumental in part of our survey work and design of the solution for this project. So we're recommending award to Walton Contracting in an amount not to exceed $154,485, and that also includes a 15% contingency.
There's such a discrepancy in those
Yeah, I
two
was
bids.
just gonna mention that. Did you guys do a post bid on
Yes,
these?
we did.
So we knew the scopes were similar?
They were, and we found that in Grand Traverse construction, they were using Elmer's, and they threw a lot of extra cost in there for things that weren't in the design solution.
Elmer's bids have been very high lately,
Well, they're very busy lately too.
and that could be why. They've got a lot of MDOT work going on, so.
So one explanation is Walton self-performing
Yes,
the excavation.
they are.
Okay.
And like I said, they were part of the design solution as well, so I'm fairly confident that they know what they're getting into.
All right, could I have a motion to move this on to the, you want this on discussion? I think it could go into consent.
I think consent would be fine.
I move that the finance committee approve for the full board consent calendar $1,054,485 with a 15% contingency.
No,
Am I in the wrong?
it's 154,000.
What did I say, 1 million?
Yeah, that's okay. We just don't need that
Really
much.
nice.
Okay,
Sure.
strike.
You put another comma.
It's a big bridge.
That's right, that's a big bridge. All right, let me strike that. I move that, the finance committee moves, $154,485 with a 15% contingency to the full board on consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I told you I'm not very good at math, so thanks for keeping that.
It's all good.
You're sitting next to two English majors. Central High School.
Alright, so now for the little bit longer presentation, and Ben Berger, principal at Central High School, and John Sonneman, the voice of the Trojans, are both here just to speak on behalf of some community input that they've received recently as it relates to some of the options we've been discussing. So in the memo, I do talk about a couple of options. We're kind of at a crossroads. Let's turn it on, sorry. As it relates to moving forward with design. We're hesitant to spend too much on design on several different options, so we're looking for direction from the board, not necessarily on which option we're definitely doing, but which option you'd like us to go forward with the architect and engineer firm on design. So option one, this was the original option talked about quite a long time ago. We're not doing any demolition, we're strictly renovating the existing 1958 gym and the 1968 gym which are currently both below grade. So there's some pros and cons to that. Obviously, there's respect for the historical nature of the building and some just history as it relates to using that facility and not making major changes. However, there are significant challenges with ADA accessibility. I know both Mr. Berger and Mr. Sonneman can talk to some of those issues. This one, if we only renovate those two spaces, the other things that aren't being done are, so in the beginning of the memo, I did describe some of the project goals and we've discussed that with the board. One of the major concerns is safety and security and trying to get a single point of entry. So as you look at option one, we're strictly upgrading what's existing. We're not improving ADA access. We're not able to create a new secure entrance vestibule for main office that becomes a single point of entry. Right now, I think you know that students are coming from one or two parking lots, plus we have the bus loop on the fire lane way in the back. So we have students kind of going to every single area of the building, so there's no single point of entry or single supervision for students as they're coming into school or dismissing. The other things would be, it doesn't increase the number of regulation courts and it won't provide a dedicated wrestling room. So we're simply upgrading 2 regulation courts and we will then just have 2 regulation courts and a practice court. As you know, I think you know the 2008 gym is not regulation size, it's practice only. As it relates to disruption, obviously we would lose the competition gym for a season for basketball and volleyball. That really is in 2 of the 3 options that might not be avoidable. But there's very creative options for how to handle that. I know Justin has talked about some options with Mr. Berger as it relates to trying to provide some opportunities for seniors that year if they are displaced. And then supervision during the day, this doesn't create any improvements to supervision. So when you look at the building right now, when you look at where, I don't think the actual pointer works on the TV, but if you look at where the lockers are, which is way to the north of the existing competition gym, and then the lockers for PE, which are to the north of the 2008 gym, it's very hard for 1 or 2 PE teachers to have supervision during the day of all those students. So it doesn't improve that. It doesn't improve supervision during the day when you have students accessing the 2008 gym, the weights and conditioning room, and the gyms.
So what does it improve?
The existing 2 buildings.
But I mean, is it just aesthetics or is there?
Systems, systems, bleachers, the floor, everything. It doesn't, we can't make that floor bigger to get 2 regulation courts in there and 1 competition. We can maybe get 3 feet, but it's not enough to get the actual sideline that you need for an MHA SAA regulation court.
Yeah.
And sorry, the single point of entry we're not able to do. The only thing we would be able to afford, and again, this is 19.6, so there's a little bit of flexibility, but not enough to do a single point of entry. We are able to upgrade the secure entrance where it's existing, but again, you would still have 2 different points of entry. People being dropped off by bus, people being dropped off by parents, and then students driving.
Where's
it's
the
interesting.
weight room in
Can you point that out?
It is right here. So when she says 1968, we call that the small gym right there. 1958 is our big guy, and then that's 2008, the practice one.
And in the
adjacent
middle
to
of those four
That's the
are
weight room.
locker rooms there, and then the locker rooms for
rooms here,
competition.
here, and here.
So this doesn't, whatever renovation we do doesn't affect the weight room at this point?
No.
Okay.
And the wrestling room is sort of on the second level, right?
Well, there is no wrestling. There's
Yeah,
no dedicated
okay.
practice currently in the 2008 gym because that does not afford good practice space even for our basketball or volleyball teams.
Oh, okay.
So that concept, I'm just trying to show the impact of the site here with the parking lot, because one of them does drastically impact the parking lot. So when we look at option 2, it would be no demolition. We would strictly focus on a new competition addition to the north of the building, which this one does drastically affect the parking lot. So this one is approximately 21.5 million. The concept though is to get situated with two regulation courts in one large competition gym with new bleachers, new lockers, and circulation. What this doesn't do is touch the 1958 or 1968 gym, which we are currently dealing with failing systems, failing locker bleachers. So it doesn't even touch those two, which is the reason why we started to address this project anyway. It does get us to 4 competition courts, and then still the practice gym, we wouldn't have enough money to get the dedicated wrestling room. They could still practice in there, but we wouldn't be able to do any renovations there. And we are slightly over budget. We could potentially do that secure entrance vestibule a little bit bigger where it's existing, but again, we are not getting a single point of entry. And this is the impact to the parking lot. It's like 150 spaces minimum that we would lose, plus the bus pickup drop off for athletics.
What's the total space count on that lot?
I don't know that right now. Paul, do you know offhand total
No,
parking?
No, off the top of my head.
We do have that somewhere because we've analyzed it, but
And that's primarily during the day student parking?
Yeah.
anything more you want to talk about with this one? Okay. And then option 3, that would be a demolition of the 1958 gym first, and then build a new competition gym in its place where it's most practicable to set it. This option, we would also be able to do a single point of entry with an addition on the side of the new competition gym, making a connection to the educational wing so that students didn't have to come through the gyms to actually get to the instructional wing. The single point of entry would provide offices for athletics and main office. So all of your adults then are facing the parking lot and a potential new bus loop that all students would be entering and exit the building from. So that's your single point of entry and supervision of all students at dismissal and arrival. We wouldn't touch at this point anything to do with the existing main office. In the future, we'd like to do some minor renovations so they can use it for something different in the future. What this does do is create a whole new locker room structure that drastically improves supervision during the day. Paul, can you point out the locker rooms? So they would be centrally located between the weight room, the 1968 gym, the 2008 gym, and the new competition 2 regulation court gym. So this one would give you 3 regulation courts because again, the 2008 court is not regulation size. It could potentially give you the renovated wrestling room if you were willing to bump the budget to 20.2 million. Right now it's at 19.6. The estimated cost just for the gym renovations is a little over 400,000, but then you have fees on top of that. So the total budget, if you decided to do the wrestling room at the same time, would be about $20,200,000.
So I guess I'd like that to just reflect in this, because right now it says 19.6.
Well,
It says,
what I tried to do in the option is give you, my goal is to stick to 20 as much as possible. And so in this option, I just mentioned athletic facilities. It increases the number of regulation courts to 3 and provides a potential for a new dedicated wrestling room if we increase the budget to 20.2.
Yeah, so kind of 4 options then, right? So 19.6 and then the 20.2.
Yes.
Okay.
This one does improve supervision, obviously, during the day with locker rooms. It does cause disruption as relates to, you do lose one season of basketball and volleyball like the first option does. Again, I think we've got some pretty creative ideas for those students that will be seniors that year, not we, Central High staff. So this one does improve ADA quite a bit, obviously with the whole entire 1958 structure. It does leave us with some ADA issues for 1968, but we can make some minor improvements there. So that it's a little bit easier to access the 1968 gym, and it's much better access for any ADA accessibility. No need for elevators on that side. If we do need an elevator for the 1968 gym, it would be big enough into regulation code so that we could actually fit all wheelchairs in it. Our elevators don't fit all wheelchairs in it, and I know currently it is affecting an incoming student next year.
Yeah, just so you guys are clear, I'm gonna jump in a
I
second.
knew you were.
I know you, thank you. So the ADA compliance is a huge one, right? The kids come in, they go up a half set of stairs, they go across the hallway, they go down a half set of stairs. Because all four of those sort of corners have an up and down half flight, it makes it really tricky for any students who are wheelchair or crutches, which when you have 1,500 teenagers in a facility, you have students like that. Also makes it really tricky for any of our community members who come in and have any type of issue with going up and down stairs. The other sort of piece that adds to it is in the winter when it's wet and snowy. Every year you come up these cement steps and they're slippery, and you're talking about hundreds of kids. We have kids who slip and fall and unfortunately have potential accidents with that. So that ADA compliance is, we have 2 elevators at their diagonal quarters right now in that current gym, to sort of like if you were a community member or somebody coming off the parking lot, to be able to go down to the level, go across the gym, and then go back up so you can get into the instructional wing, which all of that is like not super convenient for us. And when we have pep assemblies or large gatherings in the gym and we have students in wheelchairs, it's very difficult for us to get them into the gym so they can participate with their student community. So I think that's why we're looking at this whole project, but I just want to be really clear on that impact.
It sounds to me also like the fire marshal might look down on what our current situation is, and it sort of leads me also to the question about a single point of entry. Can we manage to get that number of people in and out through a single point of entry?
I think the answer is yes, and that's part of the reason I'm such a proponent of this option, because it's so needed with 122 external doors. The architects and I watched the flow and timed the flow, and the way we have things coming in, the short answer, Scott, is I think yes, we could.
And we can also, even though it's a single point entry, there can be multiple doors, right? So it's
Well, I
not all
understand that,
students
but-
coming through a small.
And it would look drastically different as far as a community member coming in or students coming in off schedule. So the bank of doors is open and kids come in and we can post security right there, and the flow happens pretty seamlessly.
The other benefit with adding the secure entrance vestibule and putting both athletics and the main office there is you can also separate athletic after hours events from the rest of the building. So you can actually close off the educational wing when people are coming into the building after hours and not have anybody roaming the halls. And you don't have to bring students in off the parking lot through gyms or up and down a corridor.
It also eliminates Milliken as a parent drop-off pickup. Right now, we've got Milliken where we've got a good percentage that come off of, and Eastern in this proposal, everything comes forward facing right from Eastern, which is appealing as well.
It would eliminate too the bus ramp on the fire lane, which has never been ideal.
Is not ideal at all. We have struggled with that a lot.
And isn't that, just referencing option number 2, isn't the parking lot full? I mean, don't all kids?
September it won't look full, and then as sophomores get their license, and by the time you hit spring break, it's really full.
Okay. Yeah, so to take away
And,
out of 100.
and when we met with a group of about 12 community members, 2 was the clear, absolutely not.
Yeah,
Option 2 was like, they wanted no part with making our building, extending like the Lego pieces, if you will, and
yeah,
taking away from the parking lot. And so 1 and 3 became the top
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, and that's why I was trying to just say, okay, it doesn't sound like option two would even be a viable option, because you're not improving 80, you know, there's just.
Yeah, our neighbors, that neighborhood has been very loud and vocal about not wanting kids to park in the neighborhood.
Yes.
They don't really love teenage drivers
Yeah.
parking in their neighborhood. They would
Yeah.
really prefer us to keep them on our campus.
What do you think, Coach?
Well, back when I started, the kids didn't drive.
Were there cars, John?
We tethered the horses out there. No, not really. I agree. I don't think two is a viable option at all. But I think that, and for nostalgia reasons, you know, it's hard for me to part with a place that I've worked in for 60 years. My first classroom was in what is now the hallway behind the big gym, between the big gym and the 68 gym, which at that point was designed to be a swimming pool. So anyway,
That's why it's.
I've been there for a long time. And I agree that, you know, the old gym, or the old gym, the present gym has character. And what I don't want to see is just a big box. I think that I'd like to, in some way, to see the design to preserve the character of the gym. It's been the best spectator gym, certainly, in the north, or one of the best, for a long, long time. It's been there for 70 years. And I'd like to see something, but it has its limitations. And my wife always points out that she has difficulty coming to see an event because of the handicapped inaccessibility.
Right.
So it needs changes. And I understand that the changes really can't be made with the existing structure. Those nice bleachers that everybody likes are concrete. They've got nice backs on the chairs. That's what people like. But that's impossible at this point, I think, in a new facility. Now, I do have some ideas about design too that I'd like to see, but they're probably way beyond any kind of expense that we want to incur.
Well, I appreciate you being here, Coach, and I hope that you'll come back on Monday night, and hopefully we'll get you a nameplate too right here at the table. But I'm fine moving this forward. I'd recommend removing option 2 for Monday night. I'd also recommend adding bullets to Jesse's point around, currently there's ADA is not mentioned. I like the bullet points. So I'd add a ADA bullet point, and currently safety is not really mentioned, security, I guess. So if we're having people slip and fall, that would be another bullet to add. And I'd also recommend adding a 4th option for the $20.2 million option.
Just discussion wise, I don't think we should remove option 2, because if other board members say, well, why don't we just build a blah, 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 then we can say, well, we looked at it, here's our plan.
I'm assuming they're watching this, right? And we just heard 12 community members said adamantly no, and you just brought up that parking's an issue. So I'm fine leaving it in, but I'd be surprised if that gets everyone's support.
Yeah, I mean, I would too. I just think, just to show that the work was done and why it's not the best option, I think is also a good part of the discussion, in my opinion.
Do you want to talk about moving a recommendation forward that lists the options in our order of preference? And we could say that.
I don't think so. I mean, I think we've had this discussion in April, kind of already. And I think and to save time here, we just move it to Monday night. I mean, I think it's gonna be another long discussion, but I would love to hear from these 12 community members. I've yet to hear them speak or have a.
Ben, would you mind just giving a summary of the discussion and what was talked about?
Yeah, you know, I think, and Mr. Sonneman definitely hit on it, is that we had our coaches were adamant number 3. They say pull the Band-Aid, like we can figure out for a season what to do, but they want the increased court space. And so from an athletic standpoint, they're for that. One of the other things with our current flow was the gym court takes so much more wear because of people sloshing in through there. And so they were for that. The community members were alumni of Central who are prominent business owners or, deeply connected either through their kids playing sports or being involved. And they, much like Mr. Sonneman, were very sad at the idea of losing the character of the building and from nostalgia of current teams wanting to come play in our gym because it appears different and has more character than, your generic box here or your generic box there. There may or may not have been comparisons to other sides of town, but we tried to steer clear of that. Their biggest fear was if number 3 they liked because of the ADA and the single point of entry and the safety. Everyone's absolutely, I agree with that. What makes it hard in talking in our circles was what will the design look like? Because the fear would be with limitations that we would just get we would lose the character and have a box. And so everyone was on board, and Ty will try and get them here Monday, but it was on board with that. With knowing 3 is the best option, but really having some uncertainty and wanting some voice in how we could preserve aspects or ensure that what is built there embarks a new tradition.
And so that's what Dr. Wagner and I talked about. I'm not asking for you to prove this is concept only. It is not design. It's boxes and square footage. What we'd like to do is move forward with a visioning committee like we've done with schools to really talk to members about what is important, what is the character, what is the nostalgia, so that we can make sure our architects incorporate that into the design. And then at some point, the architects would come forward with a few designs that the board could have community input on before making a final decision on, yes, this is what we want, go out for bid.
And just so I'm clear, when you say option 3, Ben, is that with or without the wrestling room?
With the wrestling room.
Okay.
Yeah, with the wrestling room. That was a big part of the original.
I support moving this forward to Monday night with some of those recommendations that I spoke of. And again, to talk about we're at 174 of our current 180 million, I believe. And, as we move pieces around and I think to look at the big picture of, because I do support Coach with the design and not a big box, but that will take money. But of course, as we move around money from the bond.
There's
make
definitely
compromises.
things that we can do that won't exacerbate the budget. It might not be exactly what we want, but we could still leave opportunity for the future.
And to be clear too, this also is the contingent on another 2028 bond project.
This isn't.
This is not.
No, none of these are. I was asked to remove that.
Oh.
That is a future conversation
Oh.
for what next.
That's different than April then.
Yes.
Ah,
I'd love it to be tied to the conversation so we could talk about what next.
good to know.
But the conversation could be, okay, so maybe in the new bond, we deal with the ADA accessibility of the 1968. Maybe we tackle the 1968 gym in the new bond, demo that and create a 2-court regulation, so you get your 4 courts, and then we already have the wrestling room and we can do some other improvements. So that would be the recommendation.
And I asked her to take that out after talking with Ben in the conversation. I think there was a little confusion. We actually did kind of approach with the community group that way, and they're like, wait a minute, what money's from where and how? And so I felt like it was best just for right now is to concentrate on the money we have and what we're trying to do right now. But I think that future plans and the board giving some vision of that would be great, but right now we're just trying to focus on that to not have any.
That was tough for them to say, what, you want us to make a decision on these 3 and they're all $15 million over the budget.
Yeah.
Why can't we go 20 million over? And they were very excited about raising more money to get all the asks. So I think to simplify it, it was.
Yeah.
And in all honesty.
And we do have to be careful that, we do have equity across, both schools, the West and Central. And so to, all of a sudden come up and raise another 8 million, for a gym on one side and not the other, there's a careful thing we have to have there. But I think, as I kind of, explained to the board in my last update, I think our goal is to create that visioning team. I think Christina will do a great job putting them together and can we blend as much of the history and the venue that captures that with the money we have to where we can get everybody to feel good about where that is. That's our ultimate goal.
Yeah, I would recommend that we make, unlike West's facility, and more like Central Grade, that we at least make an attempt to honor the past and the historical nature of this and those people, past and present, who have participated out there. So I'm assuming you have people like Tom Kozalko and
Absolutely.
Yep,
Dave Whiteford and
and he was part of the,
some of those other people?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so do we want to make a formal recommendation or just move this onto the board for discussion?
Moving on.
Okay, so let's just move this onto the board for full discussion.
And just as a side note, not to go on too long, but in all reality, this project wouldn't even start until the spring of '27. So it could look like phases and two different bonds, but it also could be seamless. If we have a portion of the new bond, depending on when we go out for that, it actually could be seamless as far as construction goes. Cause you wouldn't be able to do the 1968 until this new one was done. That's gonna take some time. So it could be somewhat seamless as it relates to how it impacts the site and the community. But from a funding perspective, that's just work we have to do.
And I'm assuming there is linkage to a later conversation we're going to have about the field house that
Yep.
potentially could become an option for some of this intermediate period. Okay. Advanced placement, science extensions fiscal year 26, is that you?
That is me, yes.
Fire away.
I have a piece of bid there for curriculum. These are our advanced placement environmental science textbooks. So all of our advanced placement courses that we run have to have textbooks that are approved by College Board. This is just a renewal of the current textbook we have. This is the newest edition. The enrollment in this course from both sides of town this last year was 179 students. This next year we are projected to have 200 students total at both high schools enrolled in this course. It's a very popular AP course. So this is a 5-year purchase of both the digital textbook access and the print access. The majority of our students prefer digital, but that allows us 5 years of that. Both approved by the 2 teachers that teach the course, well, the 3 teachers that teach it too. This is what they want to stay with, so.
Okay, so we didn't vet other options particularly on this,
We did not. Our results have been really strong in this area. The teachers are very happy with it. It was just a matter of their current book, which was the version 3 edition, had run out. We don't have any more access to it, and they asked, we wanna stay with this, can we renew our contract with them and go with the newest version? So that's what this is for.
questions?
I watched the curriculum meeting Tuesday. I don't think this was, did this get discussed or did I miss it?
Not the textbooks, they always just come here.
Always.
We talked about the results of the course, yeah.
Yeah, I support moving it forward. I mean, I'd like to put it on discussion so we have at least something related to teaching and learning on Monday night, but
Do you want to make a motion that we
Gonna be a
move
long
this?
meeting.
Pardon?
I mean, I know, but I mean, we got nothing for teaching and learning again. But not that this would talk about teaching and learning, maybe we, because there was a great discussion
Well,
Tuesday,
It would be in Scott's report out.
Josie's report out.
Scott's
No,
report on
for
finance.
this,
For
for finance.
we simply approved the purchase, but yeah, I'm assuming Josie would talk about something that was,
Anyways, we can put it on consent. I will make a motion for a 5-year online lease for this advanced placement environmental science extension in the amount of $38,982 with a 10% contingency. Put that on consent.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, is this Tyson's?
Yes.
Trucks?
Sir. Yes, we are requesting to purchase 2 vehicles. One all-wheel drive 2029 Chevy Equinox, and both of these are on my deals, so they're both already bid out for us. So
Consortium pricing.
consortium, yes,
As in Michigan,
yes.
and not yours, okay.
And then a 2023 Sierra pickup. It's a double cab 4-wheel drive. It was ordered before by other organization, and when we asked about the 2025, they said they had 2 2023s, still brand spanking new.
The My Deals are pretty much cookie cutter vehicles, so it's everything we were asking for. And we save a few $1,000s on a 23 instead of a 25. We're requesting also to purchase a cap, or it's pretty much informational that when we do get the pickup, we're gonna purchase a cap for it too with bond funds, where the other funds are coming out of operational funds. So the total cost would be $76,942 with a 10% contingency.
Tyson, will you just explain why the different pools of money there for the cab and then the just.
Christine
Yeah,
would be
so
better
capital
off.
bond funds cannot be used for vehicles other than school buses. However, the accessories for the vehicles, because it's equipment, can be purchased with bond funds.
Okay.
So we can purchase the vehicles with general fund, which we have an annual allocation. We actually didn't use the annual allocation. We actually got an insurance check quite a bit higher than the 76. So I had Tyson use that for the purchase instead of general fund. We unfortunately had 2 total vehicles last year. So we got a $95,000 check from the insurance company. So I let them have 76 of it. So we're purchasing those 2 vehicles to make sure we stay on track, plus to replace one of the 2 vehicles that was totaled.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure the community knew why there was a difference there. So, okay, so is there any other discussion?
No.
Make a motion. Okay, I move that we approve the cost of the vehicles for $76,942, which includes a 10% contingency, and move this to the consent calendar.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's all you had, right, Dyson?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, now we're on to the multipurpose field house.
Okay, I'll talk about that. So the board has provided a memo to the board. Earlier this year, when we had a presentation with the board talking about beginning to work with a group for fundraising for a indoor practice facility, working towards a multi-purpose field house. We have been working with a group of the now called the Northern Michigan Home Field Alliance. If you go to that next slide for me, if you will, in the presentation. This is the group, so it's a group of community members. We've got some of our team, our 2 athletic directors, as well, working with this group to raise funds. So far, I believe the board should have received an update. I forwarded an email for Jessica Sullivan that's leading this group. So far, the group in their really quiet campaign, their goal is to be able to try and get 70% of what they're looking for, really before doing any kind of public push. That's very common in the philanthropy world. If you maybe saw Inland Seas, for instance, just put out a large campaign and showed that they had about 70% of what I want to say about $11 million they were trying to raise, and I think that they had reached the 70% mark, and they went public with it. Jessica emailed the board that she has, and the group has so far been able to get $5 million dedicated, and is working towards trying here to work on the next $2 million to be able to get, and also has worked to get documentation, website, those things out, to have a public push here in the next 60 days for that. For others in the public, we've had lots of people that have come up. I just had a meeting with a media group the other day that has an interest in doing some sponsorship. Others that are kind of reaching out as they're starting to hear about it, that want to be able to contribute or find ways to sponsor. So she's working hard with the group on that. In the packet, I have worked with TMP architects for some renderings. You will be able to see in the presentation. After looking at all the areas within the district of land that we have, there's a really, really nice patch on Carlisle Road that's directly across from Center Ice Arena on the backside of East Middle School. That a facility would work well, and it works well for multiple reasons, but most of all with our kids, especially our East Middle School kids. Another project that that I've had a lot of conversations with is trying to find some opportunities for after-school programming at East Middle School. Many of our kids at West Middle School take the Buffalo Trail and go to the YMCA after school, and our East Middle School kids do not have any type of ability or facility nearby there to be able to do that. So that's one, as Ty has mentioned a lot in the past and advocated, something that as we've worked towards this, that I've thought a lot about, that site affords that. We have a trail that actually is cut through and partially paved and partially bridged that goes right through from East Middle School to this area. And so that's a really unique part of this site that's intriguing. As well as right now, we have our lead director is housed out of East Middle School. And part of the conversation that I've had with our team is to really look at expanding our lead programming. One of the things we recognize is in the summer especially that our parents are really struggling for places for kids to go, and we have kids that are sitting at home all day, and we just know that's not healthy activity. And so would this be a way, a facility, to be able to really expand many of our LEAP offerings that could be offered? You could even do things like a drone program in the summer with kids, many STEM opportunities, as well as extracurricular athletics, robotics, so many things that we want to try and make it truly multi-purpose. What can we do with flooring options? What can we do with all that? So really interested in, after I've talked to a lot of people in the community of what the needs are of our kids, what is it that we can do with that? So we put these renderings together that would just kind of show a little bit of what that has a multi-sport court in it. It could be a tennis. We could have our ways. Lincoln, for instance, in it, Lanny has a court that is volleyball and basketball that can go over that. There's lots of ways that you can go about in design of trying to make it as multifunctional as you can. There's everything from a high jump and pole vault, long jump in this, and track. And so, trying to make it as functional as possible to serve as many of our kids for different activities is the conversations that we've had. Also in the memo, I had provided the board a 5-year pro forma that shows the business model for the facility. One of the questions a lot of people ask is, how do you supervise that? So we would look at a bit of a reorg with our LEAP program. They have our LEAP director housed out of this, as well as LEAP administrative assistant. And then we would have more part-time people like we do right now at West Middle School. We would have that at East Middle School and West Middle School, as well as an elementary program person within LEAP that we do. If you know David, he does a great job with our elementary work with the LEAP program. So really trying to expand our opportunities with LEAP is a big part, but also allowing us to have that supervision and programming out of this as this being LEAP's central location. But again, that business model does show the work that would need to be financially. The goal that after talking to board members over the past couple of years is trying to make it to where it's cost sustainable and not a draw on the district from teaching and learning and the things that we need for that. So making it where, goal's not really to make money, but, if we were to do this, they do see an opportunity to try and generate revenue. They can help our LEAP program, especially to create funding for kids that cannot afford these opportunities to have scholarships and that funding to be able to provide for kids to do that. We do some of that now, a little over $60,000 a year right now. We put towards reduced cost for kids to do LEAP, and then our SSN is spending a little over I think $10,000 to subsidize the smaller portion to make it free for some kids. So we could lessen that burden off of SSN and our families by providing more scholarships from revenue generation that this can do. A similar facility in Lincoln, downstate, is generating over $200,000 a year positive after staffing and costs and all that. So that's something that we would use as a model to look at to make sure that we're covering that. And the business model does show in year 3 that we reach that component. We have received a grant from the Great Lakes Sports Commission, a $25,000 planning grant, that, will help us to do some environmental engineering looks at the site, as well, that is there. So that's a big portion of what I've presented in the memo to the board right now. We are just, again, much like the gym at Central, just looking at design. Really, this is just the first step that lets us know what is it that it looks like, putting a team of people together, to look, is this, drawings that they put together, is that something like what we would like? What are the costs of that? Until we just sit down with architects and actually do a design, we don't know what that would look like to bring, for bid to get those actual costs. But that's what we're asking today. And we'll also mention, there's been a lot of conversations about, at one point of facilities of both high schools, with costs and some of the site issues, especially at Central High, that is just really prohibitive. But one of the things that the Northern Michigan Homefield Alliance also would like to do is if this could be achieved through that the fundraising component that they have set forth, is you will see on the slides, if you go to the next slides, is to see if there might be an ability to do some auxiliary gyms at both Central and West High School. Smaller, much smaller, probably even smaller than this picture. I didn't want at TMP with time to put much more work into it. But you would see a smaller, essentially kind of multi-purpose gym that could be at each site that could alleviate, especially during the school day. You may remember our strength and conditioning classes. There's the #1 selected class. At both high schools, we have kids running in hallways. Every once in a great while, especially during track season, I get emails from teachers complaining about it's so loud in the hallways while they're trying to create papers and such. That this might alleviate some of that, and that would be a 100% fundraised opportunity in the future. But just there's been questions and asked about something at each high school. Again, at Central, we're very landlocked, and be able to fit something that fits all the needs of what all of our students and community can use just really isn't all that feasible. But this would be a portion, and if the Northern Michigan Homefield Alliance can continue to raise money, that is something like they would in a phase 2 in the future, kind of much like the next bond kind of conversation. This would be a fundraising for the future. Consider possibly doing one at each of the high schools as well. But right now, we're just asking to take a first step and to work with TMP to do the full design work. And then we would be able to have bids and bring that to the board to get an idea of exactly where we're at cost-wise on it. And at that point, the board could decide to move forward at that point if so choose. But for now, just requesting from the board approval to work with TMP for. So from that, I'll take any questions you might have.
John, a quick question for you. If we talk about use of this facility in the summertime, are we going to air condition the building so that at least we're not asking kids to participate in a virtual oven?
Say that last part again. I didn't hear all that.
I just am curious if we're gonna air condition the building in the summer to be able to facilitate programming.
One of the things, so Brighton, when they did theirs, they have 3 really, really big fans at the top of it. And they say from a summertime standpoint, with the doors open and that, they get a lot of airflow, and then it's pretty darn good. So initially, no, in that it wouldn't, in the ones that I've across Michigan, I've not seen one with air in them. But, I think you always design HVAC systems in something like this to be able to add it on in the future if something came up. But, one of the things that I am interested too is looking at energy sustainability with this building. Is there ways to look at some creative ways? I went out to stop and see Tim with Keen Energy Solutions a week or so ago. He wasn't there, but I am interested in looking at if there are any options, for that could be very cost effective, as a part of this that could help out with that, or at least be able to be added on
questions?
I don't have any questions. I do have a couple comments, and I love the vision of this. I do. I love the expansion of LEAP to make it more equitable and inclusive. And that has me excited. Also because I think, as far as I know, we're on this path to making health and wellness a strategic goal for the next 3 to 5 years. So I think there's good alignment there. I'm also very supportive of the location of this, to John's point about providing our middle schoolers at East, they get out at 2:40, I believe, something before 3, something to do in the afternoon supervised. But my only reservation currently is I don't really know what an expanded LEAP program could or should look like. We have yet to decide about what that looks like as it relates to the goals around the strategic plan. Could it mean that LEAP is free for all of our kids, for example? Could it mean we put the L back in LEAP and learning and learning enrichment athletics program, put the learning back in LEAP and provide more summertime learning opportunities like the 2 Title I summer schools that happened last year? So I think until we know specifically about the goals around health and wellness and closing the opportunity gap, and there's an internal debate going on now about the board's role with helping develop those strategic goals. So I would propose suggesting delaying this for 1 month until we approve the strategic plan at the end of August, to know exactly what these goals around health and wellness are. And then we can help design this facility that I think the facility is awesome, but I think the broader picture about access to after school and summer opportunities from our kids furthest from opportunity, I think is something I'm excited about, and hopefully I'm able to help guide some of those goals for the next 5 years.
Doug, would you be okay with moving it forward with an understanding we would wait to work at start design and design team until after that point?
I'm not, John, but I'm just one of 3 up here. So it's okay if we move it forward with a 2-to-1 vote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about this project, having served on the board the longest. I've watched from the 2018 bond discussions about an athletic or indoor facility, having sat through community members and our students and our staff and hearing the needs of this discussion has been on when we went through our priorities list. This continually has been raised as a need of our community, and I know lots of different groups have talked about this over years and years and years, and I just think that this is pretty awesome for our kids. When you look at, Mackinac City has 155 students and they have an indoor complex. It just seems like our kids here in Traverse City deserve this. And I think I love the idea of this private-public partnership, and that, we have community members wanting to come forward and to donate money to this, I think is just a fantastic thing for us. I love the idea about the LEAP programs and helping all kids that, to participate. It's hard in these big schools to either, be a part of travel teams. It's expensive, and also, and then if you don't make varsity or you don't make JV, then your athletic career kind of can end. And in this light, something like this could allow more kids to participate. And maybe discover their passions in other ways. Not every student is going to be a academic learner, and so, or an academic, focused kid. And so this just really opens the door for so many other kids. And I think we have such great momentum. I think to delay this would send a message that I really don't think we want to send. I think, we are only talking about moving this forward for the discussion to draw plans. We're not moving this forward to say we're gonna build this tomorrow. And I think, again, with a donor that has, potentially come forward to say, that we will join you in this effort, I think is really quite remarkable, and I'm very thankful for that. And so, there's a lot of questions to be answered, of course, but I think really exciting, and I've gotten tons of great feedback from community members about this and the opportunity for our kids in our community, and yeah, so I'm all in favor 150%, so super excited.
I can say I'm very excited about this too, and the opportunity that presents itself. I also think, in fairness to those people, to Jessica Sullivan and her group, that if they've been out repeated times to talk about fundraising and getting commitments, that now that we're in the Record Eagle this morning and have been in the ticker previously, this is now public knowledge. In essence, we've started this campaign. I think we ought to move this onto the board with a recommendation that we spend the money to draw plans. Having said on multiple boards that have gone through this process, this is almost a required piece of the pie. In order to get legitimate bids, you have to have something hard and concrete in front of bidders. It doesn't necessarily mean that we can't, if the bids come in higher than we expected, we can't stop the process. But I think this is a necessary expenditure so that we can quantify and qualify what we're trying to build and tell people who want to bid that this is the number you need to put to. So I would recommend moving it on. I think mostly in fairness to the community who's ponied up some of the money for this and has potentially offered up even more, that we ought to show them we're serious by moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd also just like to thank Dr. Van Wagner, the time and energy and effort that you have put towards this and making connections, being a part of these different groups. Just really thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been a discussion within TCAPS for so many years, and it just always kind of never happens. So I'm pretty excited, if you can't tell, but I just want to say thank you, truly. And Jessica, her leadership in this has been phenomenal, and it's been a really great partnership that, you know, I've been a part of a lot of these conversations, and so just thank you. So with that, I would like to move forward to the full board, contracting with TMP Architects to complete the architecture and engineering A&E services for a proposed multi-purpose field house to the full board for discussion.
Well, I don't know, procedurally, I think I can second that. Do we want to put a dollar amount in this at all for that expenditure?
It's in the proposal, and as long as it's in the motion at the full board,
all right,
that's where we would need it.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Duly noted. And Ty, this is just, I completely agree with the analysis, Lee, and know what we need to do. I just think we can do those concurrently, so.
Well, I like to believe that as well, but I think I'm here to stand up to support all kids and to make sure that this is a big investment in the future, to make sure that those kids who currently don't have access. And I would love for us to say we're gonna make LEAP free for all students, K-8. So I'm just putting that out there for a strategic plan goal, even though there may be disagreements about my ability to develop strategic goals.
Okay. All right, informational items.
All right, so there has been a lot of discussion about Student Support Network. There's been a lot of growth with the program under Katie's leadership, so I thought why not just have her here and give you guys an update. We've been providing those periodically, but I know there's been some further questions, and she's definitely the person to answer those. So, Katie?
All right, thank you for including me in the discussion today. Well, we'll start out with kind of the end of year data, which is always a little bittersweet for me because I'm focusing on the numbers and I want those donations to grow. But in return, I want the awareness to grow, but then I see that student number go up and it's a red flag to me that those are students and not numbers. So that's always a little bittersweet. So we did have a large increase this year in total number of students served. It was over 1,500 students accessed the Student Support Network. That's multiple times that they reached out for resources and over 1,500 individual students. And that doesn't include school supplies or anything that we will submit directly to a classroom. So if someone asks for healthy snacks or things like that, we don't count that in that individual count. So of that 1,525 students, 423 students this year were experiencing homelessness that were enrolled in TCAPS. And I broke it down there. If you're not aware of the McKinney-Vento is a federal act that protects the educational rights of students experiencing homelessness, and they define it a little bit differently. It's if they lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, as compared to the federal definition for Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, is if they're literally homeless and on the street. But with the educational component, those students are broken down into unsheltered, which would be in campgrounds, cars, sleeping outside, and then the shelter, of course, would be our Safe Harbor Emergency Shelter for those that are 18 and over, or the Goodwill Shelter also includes Women's Resource Center. Transitional housing includes those that might be farm workers and they're living in a transitional situation until they move on to the next place, or it could be people who were in those shelters and have now moved on to a transitional living situation before they get permanently housed. Again, we have hotel motel, and of course the most popular majority of our students are those who are couch surfing or doubled up. And doubled up is when one family or student is living with another family or friend for financial reasons, and that obviously is our largest. Out of that 423 students experiencing homelessness, 58 of them were unaccompanied homeless youth. So that means that they lacked that fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, and they were not accompanied by a parent or guardian. And a big misconception with that is only our high school students. All students K through 12, we have them in almost every grade level who are unaccompanied homeless youth. It might be some of those students who might be living with a grandparent or a friend of the family who is not a legal parent or guardian, and they do not have that fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. So they are qualified as a unaccompanied homeless youth. Any questions about the numbers? And so then one of my goals for the past 3 years of having this program is, one, to increase awareness in the community for two reasons. One, so that we can increase the amount of revenue that's coming into the program so we can assist students, and also to increase awareness, most importantly, with families so they understand that definition and are able to reach assistance and be identified. So I'm proud to say that we have more than doubled the amount of donations that we received. If you look in the very small print down there, you'll see that last school year it was about 47,000. This year we increased that to almost 120,000. And that was in part due to some pretty large donations that we received. The Mahogany Foundation was 10,000. 100 Women Who Care donated 10,000. The First Congregational Church it's now called Mission Hill Church. That was a large grant of 25,000. And then we have received the Grand Traverse Band 2% allotment, which was 25,000, which is put aside for transportation for the Sunshine Bus. So, and I just broke it down in the percentage of things, or of different ways that we receive those donations.
And your name's not up there on all your hard work that you've done.
Yeah, I'm the
Double.
0.1 FTE from the general fund.
Okay, but the doubling
Thank
is.
you. Thank you. A lot of sweat, right? Sweat equity. And then also in part with that, so in addition, the most important part of my role as the coordinator is also I serve as the McKinney-Vento liaison, which is the district homeless liaison, and also the regional grant coordinator for a consortium. There are 23 school districts in our consortium. It goes 5 different counties here in northern Michigan, and TCAPS is a fiduciary of that grant. So I oversee that and the training of all the McKinney-Vento liaisons and the allocations from that grant throughout that 5-county region. So this just breaks down what that grant is there. And you'll see the actual allocation for 2024, and then we had a carryover, which was pretty high for the past year. And that was due in part to the American Rescue Funds, or pandemic COVID funds, ESSER, different titles for that. We received a large amount of that allocated to the consortium and to TCAPS individually. So there were 2 different grants that came out. So we had a lot of carryover from our regular McKinney-Vento grant, just due in part to being able to kind of stockpile through those art funds. So, and then our Title I, Part A homeless set aside, it's important to note that pays for our student support specialists at Central and West and TC High, and then also pays for transportation throughout the district for our students who are experiencing homelessness and need transportation to their school of origin, which their school of origin may be Central High School, but they may be in a camper on West Senior High's district of residence, but by law, we need to transport them to keep them in their school of origin to maintain that school stability for them. And then next, I just have a list of our generous donations that have come in. I don't list the individuals just for their own confidentiality, but these are some of the great community agencies and events that we have that have helped us grow and maintain that budget so that we can assist our families. So great. And I'm a pretty frugal person by nature. Jesse's laughing. So you'll see that I don't have a lot of expenses that come out of that $120,000, because if someone needs a pair of boots, I have seen Dr. Van Wagner in the store, you see me buying boots before, but I also will reach out to other community members. We have a great partnership with the Goodwill Partner Voucher Program. We get about $7,200 a year in vouchers from them. And then I also reach out to parents and other people to donate boots and coats and things before I spend that money. So it's not my money and I help raise it, so I'm very protective of it. But so you'll see here where I broke down what the actual expense SSN provided is in that middle column. And then to the right of that is the community provided. It was provided gratis, and I kind of give it an estimated cost of that donation. So, and then breaking it down is just basic essentials, right? The priorities of the entire program is to make sure that the barriers are removed for students so they're ready for academic learning. So that is my number one priority, to make sure that they have what they need to be ready for learning. And then the LEAP fees, that's one thing that we kind of took it a step further in the last couple of years is my own kids are a true testament to being involved in school activities. I have 3 powerful, wonderful, strong young women who were constantly involved in things, and I credit that. So I'm trying to get other kids the opportunities and equity like Ty talks about to be able to have access to those activities. So we have been trying to pay those LEAP fees. We have some kids right now at like Camp Invention over the summer, so T-Bays, we work with YMCA, they're very generous in giving us memberships, so things like that. And then there's costs associated with that often are higher than what the cost is of the registration fee. So if you take, for example, one student who enrolls in track and field, and they are at the elementary level, it's $18.25 is what SSN pays for that student. And they usually need shoes and maybe a backpack, a water bottle. If they're experiencing homelessness, then by law, we need to provide full participation, which means transportation, not only for the child, but also for the family to come and watch the child, right? The child needs that equitable access to full participation like any other student in our district. As the child gets older, elementary, that fee goes from $18 up to $40, and the equipment and gear also goes more expensive, right? They're now in football and they need full-on pads, or they need spikes for their track shoes. I'm learning about all the different kinds of equipment and what makes a good volleyball knee pad and such. So those are just some related costs that go along with that, along again with the gas carts to transport those students. And then the last one there is the Sunshine Bus, which we're running right now. We're in our 3rd week of the Sunshine Bus. And thankful to Father Fred, they have a Shine program, which provides all of the food for us. And then SSM provides the essentials and some fun stuff this year too. The Optimist Club gave us a donation, and we've been doing some fun enrichment activities for them over the summer. But $25,000 of that goes towards transportation for that, again, which correlates to the last page, which was the 2% allotment from the Grand Traverse Band. So all total for the year, I estimate about $64,000. I'm sure it's much more. There's no way to really decide like all of the, well, if you saw me this week, I've been doing a lot of laundry because we get a lot of donations and then there's no way to really put a value on all the clothing and things like that come in. So gives you an idea of what we're working with. And then finally, I just wanted to share some events and outreach with all of you. So right now, Mobby Winery, they have a green giving program. And so for every flight that they sell, $1 will go back to SSN. And then coming up next week, I'm excited, we're going to have the Pit Spitters Star Wars night. So all of the Pit Spitters teams will wear Star Wars gear. At the end of the night, they will auction off their jerseys, and that amount will benefit SSN. So we'll be there at the game. I have a team of people that are gonna come and help me and some volunteers. So we'll be there to talk to people, hopefully get some identification and awareness out there within the community. Sunshine Bus, like I said, it is in our third week. We are off the week of July 4th. And we go to 8 different locations 3 times a week. It's a regular schedule. We picked them up yesterday at Father Fred, and then we have 2 great school bus drivers who go throughout the district to those locations. So, and we also started an internship program this year to help the Way to Grow the Grow Your Own through TCAPS. So some of our interns were unable to complete their foundational internship during the school day because they're teachers like Jill, who's in the audience. I didn't draw her out, and we have some others too. And so that was difficult for them. And I need free labor, so it has been amazing. And so Jill goes out on the Sunshine Bus with them too, and she can attest. It's just amazing. Yesterday, when you talk about essential needs versus other things, it's in these kids' minds all the time. And yesterday, Step Up Northern Michigan stopped by and brought us some fresh produce. And 2 weeks ago, I gave one of the boys a book, and he was really excited about it because he had started it at school and school ended and he didn't have the book, and I happened to have it. So I thought I made his summer until yesterday when the potatoes arrived. And this boy was so excited. Jill opened this huge bag of potatoes and brought out a 5-pound bag of potatoes, and this boy was so overjoyed. He's like, this is the best thing ever. So it's really cool to have these outreach events. For me in particular, I love being around the kids, and I'm used to working in the schools, and I miss that. So it hits at home for me where it's not that number of 1,500, it's individual students by name. So finally is just the back to school pop-up shop. So that is a free shopping event. We have about 50 students signed up right now already. It's by appointment only. It runs 2 days in August. They come here and they get their back to school shoes, socks, undergarments, clothing, whatever that may be. And it's gently used and brand new things that have been donated. So that's it on Student Support Network.
Katie, would you mind, I know sometimes we get some donations of some things that we might not need. Can you just talk about your preference on donations, how to receive those? Sometimes we also run into some storage issues, so can you just talk about what that looks like just in general?
Yes, absolutely. We take new and gently used items, usually on our website. With the new website, they can go to if you would like to be a donor. And we keep an up-to-date spreadsheet or a list. So like right now, I have a back-to-school supply list up there that tells what the essential things that I've surveyed from teachers of what they need. And then a big misconception is, and I appreciate all of the effort, but when people just bring clothing in or things that might not be, like in the summertime and they bring winter coats, it's wonderful, but they could take it to a nonprofit or another thrift place because we don't have the storage for that. So it is seasonal items, much like I know like at Women's Resource Center and things like that, they'll put out a thing on social media saying we're not taking this at that time. So it does get difficult, and we do pass it on to our community partners. Like I said, that Goodwill gives us the voucher program, so we're happy to donate things on there. But yes, and right now we are at capacity with winter things, so thank you.
All right, thank you, and thank you for the work you're doing. I mean, it's a critical need, and you're doing a wonderful job trying to address it.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. Just hearing you speak and your passion, I get a little teared up because really thank you for everything you do.
I
So.
appreciate it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just comment that it's always been important work, and I believe, again, if the board decides to make equity and closing the achievement gap a priority at the end of August, it will become even more important. And so thank you for the goal of
Absolutely.
awareness. I'd love the goals to also look at like these 1,500 kids, you know, are they on track to graduate? Are they reading at grade level?
Yes,
You know, and how do
yes.
we as a body make sure that you have the resources and you feel confident? And in my mind, as we talk about standing up this new foundation, like how, and that's not a conversation for today, but I'm sure there's internal discussions about how we talk about the differences between the foundation and the student support network. So anyways, thank you.
Thanks.
I really appreciate the recognition for Katie because this is a program that was started quite some time ago, but it was nothing like what she's developed now.
Mhm.
And her, I mean, she just always goes above and beyond, sometimes a little bit too much. We have to control how much she actually works, how much she drives around. And her husband also helps, so we appreciate him as a
Yes,
volunteer.
yes.
But she has just taken this program and run with it. She has excellent relationships with the community. She has a heart and she cares and she tries her very best. And she's grown this substantially. So I too want to thank you for
Thank
your
you.
work.
Thank you. I had a good base.
I know, I remember when Dr. Van Wagner came in and it was one of my big frustrations because the different entities, no one was talking and no one knew what was coming or going and it was really hard to figure out those needs because it was just so, and that was one of the first things that I remember him doing was hiring Katie and really trying to set this up so it's much more efficient and easier to identify needs and then how to fill those needs. And there's so many community members that want to help, they just don't know how. And so I think the SSN really allows for those people to come forward and so you've just done such a remarkable job, so.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone's support.
All right, capital projects?
Just a short report of a couple of items that we're working on this summer. I'm being facetious because we have a lot of projects going on. Paul, if you want to go ahead and.
Well, I was gonna offer, we're on a high note right now, so if you wanna end the meeting here.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
All right. Our trained performance management contract continues. This is West Senior High, and they're using the commons areas for staging for equipment and materials. And that most of those boxes you see are some of the hundreds of heat pumps that are being replaced at West Senior High this summer. This is what a lot of the corridors look like right now. Ceilings are out, and the heat pumps are being put in place, as well as the lighting upgrades that are going on out there. And continuing on the performance side of things, at some of our elementaries this year, Blair, Westwoods, they haven't started Silver Lake yet, but those 4 schools that are very similar, we're replacing all the unit vents that are below the windows with vertical unit vents in the corners, and we're gonna redo how the air is distributed in the classrooms. We're going to a vented system, so we're distributing across the rooms instead of all the heat and air at the windows.
Right.
And that, so, and this is some of the work they're doing there, taking out the
Modern
old
concept.
vents, cutting new vents in.
Under window.
Boilers are being replaced. This is one of the old boilers. This is at Blair, and they're widening the housekeeping pad under it for the new boilers. And these are the new boilers that were put in place at Westwoods. There's 2 of them in there, high efficiency clear fire boilers. And this is East Middle School. This, if you'd seen East, I didn't get a picture before they did this, but there is so much piping and equipment and things that we're taking out of this space. It's amazing to see it now, how empty it is. And there's 4 brand new boilers in there to replace the 2 that were there.
Can you talk a little bit about the efficiency of 4 separate boilers and staging those versus one large boiler that you're heating constantly?
Right, so the way we've operated boilers in the past with the 2 is that one will come online and it'll run constantly and be online, and then the other one would only come on in the really cold months and that. And we found running them pretty efficiently over the years. Our staff does a really good job of doing that. So we'll run the smaller boiler pretty much full time and then bring on the larger one. With these, they cycle through, so you're not running just one, they're all running, and as they are called upon for heat or heat's called on, the next one will start up and that, so we're not
It's
constantly
not a
running.
manual process of going to start up a whole other boiler, it's electronically calling for it.
So. One of the other projects that's going on is bleacher upgrades. This is East Middle School with no bleachers. They were all taken out. These are the new bleachers going in. And some of the elementary schools, I'll show you. So I just wanted to point out that capital projects aren't the only things that go on in the summer in our buildings. We do a lot of maintenance work as well. This is one of the maintenance projects, is resurfacing, refinishing the gym floors. And this is started right after the new bleachers got put in. And these are the elementaries getting bleacher upgrades as well. They're taking the old ones out right there in Silver Lake. The Cortade gym has been removed already, and they're supposed to put the new ones in next week, starting first of next week. Lockers were upgraded at Blair
Whoa,
So much better.
and
so
Cort-
nice.
and Cortade. All brand new lockers in both of those schools. One of the things we do now too, is we put an extra shelf at the bottom so that kids can put their boots and their snow stuff in at the bottom, and then still put their books and papers and all that where they can reach them and not have to reach to the top.
It also helps with ADA access too, so
It is.
all of the lockers are ADA accessible instead of having a few.
It's an ADA requirement, but we found that it would work so well that all of them are that way now. And then with music classroom partitionings that we're doing, we've taken out the folding partitions that were between our art rooms and the music rooms. And we're putting in a double stud sound attenuating wall to separate those two classrooms. West Senior High. This is the circulation project. On the left-hand side of the picture, you can see the temporary road that comes in the entrance off of Long Lake. That's two-way traffic in there. Right in front of you is the beginnings of the new bus loop. And you can see some of the roadways, how they've been compacted in the dirt there. And the retention system's holding water right now because it's not connected all the way through. That was from the big rain we had last weekend. But once that's all connected, that water will flow through to the main retention areas. Inside of West Senior High, restroom reconfigurations. This is all that wood you see. Those are temporary shoring and bracing for the masonry walls. We're cutting new openings in the masonry walls to create the single-user restrooms. They're in space. This is from the commons side.
Very exciting. The things we get excited about, right?
These are the restrooms that are around in between C and B wing in the stairwell area. Those are being done as well. And then up on the second floor of A wing in West Senior High, Northwest Ed, we're really relocating the classrooms up there. So there's some build out work we're doing in a couple of the old classrooms up there, a science room and a large, not lecture room, but it's a large classroom up there. Oh, too fast.
Traverse Heights.
Traverse Heights. Traverse Heights is moving right along. We had a progress meeting yesterday. They're on schedule. Said it again.
Oh,
Things are moving.
we're not supposed to talk about that.
Yeah. So you can see framing's up. They're starting to put the skin on the outside of
This
the
is the
building.
3 classroom edition.
This is the 3 classroom edition, and there it is. The cafeteria expansion is ready for the steel. The steel's sitting on the other side of the parking lot right now. Erection should begin early next week with that.
That looks to about double the size, huh?
Pretty
Pretty
close.
close, yeah.
Yeah, pretty close. This is back around the classroom addition corridor through there, getting redone. And then we're adding a bathroom between two of the existing classrooms, they'll share it and that, so it allows us to use for early childhood and kindergarten classes in there by adding that bathroom. That's it.
Good.
Yeah,
Lots
I
of
don't
stuff.
recommend going to West Senior High.
It looks, I drive by it a lot, it's very, very, very active.
Yeah.
Lot going on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
Sustainability Committee report out.
Okay,
Yeah, he is there.
So this month, we unfortunately, we had quite a few people have to cancel at the last minute, so we only had 3 for most of it. We did have an additional person be able to come in, but we did have a facilitator from Northwest Ed come in, and we went through the plan to work with our committee to create a 1.0 of a sustainability action plan for the district. We have 2 subcommittees that begin to look at our vision and mission and what that should look like. We talked quite a bit about the Michigan Green School application. One of the things that we're trying to figure out is the capacity to do the evaluation that's needed in that in each building. So I'll be working with Dan and Jesse on what that looks like when our staff comes back in the fall. The applications are due in March for the Michigan Green School. So our goal, our kind of really our first step thing right now is to work to see if we can get each one of our schools to be somewhat of a Michigan Green School in one of their 3 categories. Some of our schools already are, so that are in 1. So I know of at least 1 is even in the 2 category. We want to at least have every building on the first category completed for the Michigan Green School application. And then we're looking at other things. We've also just talked about the greenhouse project that we have a grant for at Central High School. The costs are really have exceeded the grant amount, but I know there's some work going back to the foundation that had awarded the original grant to see if they may consider some additional funding for that. We also talked about our current solar panels and the condition of that. We're going to be looking to try and do some grant applications. We do have a few issues with 2 of them. And so we need to figure out what that needs to happen to be able to fix those. We did get a quote from Keen Energy Solutions for that work, and so we're looking at identifying which of the power companies are that those 2 are in to see if we might write grant applications to the utility provider to see if they may help us in some support for the cost for repair on those and any future plans. And so quite a bit of work with just like I said, 3-4 people there kind of late. And we are meeting again next month, and we hope to have a larger group there to be able to work with Marianne, our facilitator, to go through finishing that mission and vision, as well as begin to identify some potential priorities for our 1.0 sustainability plan. So that's my update.
Thank you. No questions? Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you.
Finance, Christine.
Wish I had more of an update as it relates to budget. We are working through our audit for the 24-25 fiscal year. We had field work in June, and they'll be back in August to do some final cleanup, and we do present that to the board in November. So we'll know a little bit more about how we actually ended. It actually takes a while to close out the year. I don't have any updates. I know there's a lot of talk about federal funds and some losses there. I think you might remember that we lost the grant from the Grand Traverse County Health Department. It was about $360,000 last year, so we won't have it this year. And I believe our current school clinic is at risk of or has lost funding, so they're looking for some other options. So we definitely are being impacted to the tune of what number, we aren't quite sure. Just waiting to hear.
On that point, and maybe you don't know yet, waiting to hear, but in the paper on Monday, there was talk about the feds holding 157 million from Michigan, including a lot of the funds for economically disadvantaged, so Title II, Title 4A, Title 4B, Title III for English learners, Title 1C for migrant education. Can you guess if that's gonna impact us?
Yeah, those are funds that Sandy Lowe and I work on what's called the consolidated application. Our Title I funds, we've been told, are not increased, and that goes towards students who are by the census data labeled living in poverty. Those we think and we anticipate receiving as normal. We receive over $1 million in Title I's. But yes, as of this exact moment, we had budgets ready to go for Title II, which is professional development, Title III, which is our English language learner students, which, by the way, we could receive even more in that category to service that population. Our Title IV, our McKinney-Vento, which Katie Kubish works under, we have been told that none of that federal funding is coming to us. So we're sort of waiting and hoping that will get reversed or changed.
And we've never gotten our true allocation until about October, so we're always kind of working on anticipated, estimated, and it's no different other than it's a bigger concern this year.
Yeah, we are sort of pausing some of our professional development that we can pause, that wasn't already in motion, that will happen in the fall until we know more. It's just risky for us to go and spend some of those funds that we're not exactly sure at this point where those are gonna come from. So, but we're working to like prioritize which ones can we pause or maybe delay until we know for sure what that money looks like. And then some of our major ones, especially our literacy professional development for our staff, we're not gonna pause that. We're gonna do that and we're gonna move forward with that. And if the money doesn't come in, we're gonna figure out where we can rearrange some things in general funds, because that's a priority.
The next question is, when we do find out, is there an opportunity to talk about, because this is in the paper and several constituents have talked to me about how this has impacted our kids furthest from opportunity. Would there be a chance for us to talk about, to Katie's point, about awareness for the community and whether those funds funneled through Student Support Network or the new foundation, opportunities to fill gaps as again, we look to make closing the opportunity gap a priority for the district?
Yeah, so I think that along with the at-risk decrease in funding and the impact there, depending on what happens. I know John has been advocating for kind of a hold harmless with those 31A funds due to forms, essentially. We're going to do a much better job this coming year to make sure that parents are filling those out. The goal is for every school to have 100% participation. We will do our very best. We've incorporated that process into several different orientations, open houses, trying to provide an easier access with some Chromebooks available for parents to just fill it out online right there. We sent out some communications strictly to Central Grade, Traverse Heights, and Blair, and actually sent some postcards with some information with a QR code to apply. So we're really gonna try to hit that a little bit harder than maybe we have in the past, but also still advocate that we're held harmless due to that. But I think depending on what that impact is, it could be included in the conversation.
Thanks, Jesse.
Okay, thank you for the update. Upcoming district purchases, we have the spread. Is there anything in particular we need to go over?
No, not necessarily. I just try to constantly update this. West Middle School renovations, we are very close to having a overall design plan. We're currently working with a company called Wenger, who does storage and equipment for music. We had all of our music teachers do an inventory of their equipment at West Middle School, so band, orchestra, choir. And it was actually Wenger's form that they submitted it on, and then they are working with our architects to design the storage needs of all of that equipment in the existing spaces we have to see if we actually have enough spaces to make that work. Our current design does include an addition. We can't figure out a way to make it work with the existing structures that we have. We're trying to be creative about that, where we put that addition. We're not looking at putting it on the back of band and orchestra because of the requirement to have an exterior door off of those rooms and then the grade change.
You mean at West Middle?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
I know
yes,
what you're
thank
talking
you.
about.
See?
Just, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we're looking at an addition specifically for choir. It still would be kind of within the corridor of everything else for music, but it would be across from the cafeteria in that open courtyard. That's what we're currently looking at. The budget's expected to be a little bit higher than what we were thinking, but I think we're on the right track to make sure that we have the needs and using the spaces the most responsible, reusing the spaces, reutilizing spaces as best as we can. So we're getting a little bit closer. We're waiting for that storage because it really is gonna be able to tell us if we need more of an addition, if we need to do something different with maybe the little theater stage, maybe provide more storage for band. Band's the concern right now for storage spaces, so we're working on it. We've gotten some good information and participation from the teachers. I think they felt pretty good and pretty heard the last time we met with them, with the architects, so we're moving forward. Not quite there yet, but we're close.
Yeah, Christine facilitated a great meeting, and that was probably right after school was out about a month ago with all of our directors at West Middle School. And we had Chad there, our new director of music for the district too. And so it was exciting. The directors were very excited about the potential for those renovations, so.
Good.
Good.
All right, I think we're to public comment and there doesn't appear to be any.
No public comment.
We don't do public comment again at the end.
Oh, don't you?
No,
All right,
committee
well,
meeting.
maybe somebody
Gotta
will
forget
ask
those
shot
old
at it.
ways.
Yeah. All right, I guess we are, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
All right.